What's up, guys? Welcome to a brand new episode of the Fit Women's Weekly podcast. I'm your host, Kindal Boyle. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome to the show. If you enjoy this episode, I hope you go back and listen to previous episodes and come back and hang out with me for future episodes. And if you are a longtime listener, welcome back. Your support and being part of this community means the world to me. In today's episode, we're going to talk about a news article that I recently found called "You Can Add 10 Years of Your Life Simply by Changing Your Diet, Massive Study Finds." And I love that they use the word simply in there, because is it really simple to change your diet? Well, that's exactly what we're going to talk about. Before we do, if you love learning about fitness, learning about nutrition, and just being a part of this community, because I don't always just share news. I try to share interviews, and I try to also share parts of my life and the things that I go through as well that I feel like we can all connect with. If you enjoy that, please make sure to subscribe to the podcast. If you're watching this on the YouTube channel, subscribe to the video, give it a like, and leave me a comment down below of any questions or topics you would like covered on future episodes. And if you're listening to this on your favorite platform, podcast platform, make sure that you subscribe and leave a review. I read all of them, and it makes my heart so happy, you guys, because I want to hear from you. I want to know how the podcast, whichever one it is when you're listening to it, I want to know what you think about it. If you have questions, if you want to expand on the conversation a little bit more, slide into my DMs, Kindal Boyle Fitness over on Instagram, or of course over on YouTube. It's Fit Women's Weekly. But yeah, let's dive into this episode. This particular episode was published in Science Alert. It was published in November of 2023. I just happened to find it recently. I'm going to read through it, and then I have a lot to say on this. I think that this will be a good little topic. So like I mentioned, the title was called "You Can Add 10 Years to Your Life Simply by Changing Your Diet, Massive Study Finds." And I'm going to read through it just like we normally do, and then I'm going to share ultimately what I think that we can take away from this, and what I also think is kind of just crap, if I'm being honest. With every pang of hunger or craving, we have a choice: to eat foods that we're told are good for us, or to seek out comfort foods. Those choices aren't easy and always possible, but research shows that eating healthier foods can have considerable health benefits, especially in the long run. And to me, it's like, well, no crap, right? The reason that they're titled healthy foods is because we know that they are going to fuel our body a little bit better than, let's say, processed foods. So no duh. I don't understand why it took us science to share that with us, but let's keep going. A new study analyzing food intake data and health outcomes of nearly 500,000 UK residents have found that switching to a healthy diet and sticking to it can add up to 10 years to your life. Great news if you can afford it. Well, again, I don't feel like this is any shocking information. And to me, it's just like, again, we had to do a science study to prove that eating healthy would increase your lifespan. Just, again, duh. And then the other thing I also want to say is that they keep saying switching to a healthy diet. What does that actually mean? Just go ahead and put that thought in the back of your mind. We are going to dive more into that in a second. The team, led by Lars Fadnes, a public health researcher at the University of Bergen in Norway, modeled life expectancy of some 467,354 people who documented their eating habits as part of a long-running UK biobank study, which started back in 2006. The researchers grouped participants based on their eating patterns and noted how they shifted over time. They identified average and unhealthy eaters, as well as people whose food intake matched the UK's EatWell guide, and others who consumed a diet the researchers dubbed the longevity diet. One thing that I want to say, anytime that it comes to research with someone's diet, it is so hard to get accurate data because, and I know this from working with clients on nutrition, and I know it also from just being human myself, it's very hard to be completely accurate in getting data because people may not be 100% honest, and sometimes it's not even, they're not trying to be dishonest, it's just that they have this image of their food intake that sometimes it's just a little bit easier to make it seem a little healthier than it actually is. Maybe they're off on portion sizes, or you forget what you eat throughout the day. So it's very, very hard to get accurate data on your actual nutrition programs, especially for 354 people. 467,354 people. Now, they mentioned as well as people's food intake that matched the UK's EatWell guide. I wasn't sure what the EatWell guide was, but I just looked it up, and it says the EatWell guide shows how much of what we eat overall should come from each food group to achieve a healthy, balanced diet. Let's see. In just a quick little breakdown, it says you don't need to achieve the balance with every meal, but try to get the balance right over the day, over a week. I am a big fan of that. Instead of trying to make each meal completely perfect, kind of think about it in terms of averages, right? So just kind of like if you're overeating one day, you're likely going to undereat a little bit because your body does try to balance itself out. And so when you're trying to get a certain type of nutritional profile, and you don't have to make every meal look like that profile, you can maybe eat more vegetables at lunch than you do breakfast, and then balance at dinner to make it so that if you were to divide it up, it would hit what you need to. So according to the EatWell guide, which obviously I'm not in UK, so this is something new to me, it is eat at least 5 portions of a variety of fruit and vegetables per day, which, yep, I do like that. Remember that fruit juice and smoothies should be limited to no more than a combined total of 150 milliliters a day. Let's see. It says that you can choose from fresh, frozen, tinned, dried, or juiced fruit or vegetables. That's very, very interesting to me because I feel like dried fruit is not as healthy. It's very concentrated in sugar, so it kind of surprises me that they are including that into your actual servings per day. See, base meals on potato, bread, rice, pasta, and other starchy carbs. Starchy food should make up just over a third of the food that we eat. Choose higher fiber and whole grain varieties such as whole wheat pasta and brown rice, and simply leave the skins on the potatoes, which is very interesting to me because now we know that things like white rice are not bad for you. It's actually really, really good for your gut health. So whenever I see people saying that you should choose brown rice over white rice, it kind of makes me go like, ooh, old data a little bit. And then let's see, eat some beans, pulses, fish, eggs, meat, and other proteins. These foods are good sources of protein, vitamins, and minerals. Pulses such as beans, peas, and lentils are good alternatives to meat because they're low in fat and a good source of fiber and protein as well. And I've talked about this before. I actually made a social media post on this about foods that we consider high in protein but really aren't, and beans are one of those things. I wish that more government material like this, where you're trying to get a whole nation to eat a little bit healthier, would lump beans more into the carbohydrate phase, because beans and nuts are a food that contain protein but are actually higher in carbs. And so to be able to get, let's say, 30 grams of protein from a serving of lentils, you have to eat a lot of lentils to be able to do that. Are you capable of doing that? Absolutely. But then you might be overeating in your carbohydrate intake, or even getting too much fiber in the day, which there is such a thing as too much fiber, that it would toss you off. So I think it's just really brings awareness that if you're trying to focus on getting your protein from non-meat sources, just take that into consideration when you're trying to create a balanced meal. And I have talked about this in previous episodes too. Aim for at least 2 portions of fish every week, which one portion is 140 grams, one of which should be oily, such as salmon, sardines, and mackerels. Do believe in that. Choose lean cuts of meat and mince, which is just ground meat, and eat red, less, and processed meat like bacon, ham, and sausage. I am going to talk about that later on as well. Milk, cheese, yogurt, and fromage frost. I don't know what that is. I'm sorry. Are good sources of protein and some vitamins, and are also an important source of calcium, which helps keep your bones healthy. Again, yes, totally agree with this recommendation as well. But also keep in mind, depending on the type of dairy that you consume, is also very high in fat. So again, trying to balance out, if you are counting your macros, you would want to take that into consideration as well. And then when it comes to any foods that are high in calcium, make sure that you're getting a good dose of vitamin D, because they do come together in order to be able to actually absorb the calcium for your bones. And then unsaturated fats are healthier fats and include vegetable, rapeseed, olive, and sunflower oils. It just says choose unsaturated fats and spreads and eat in small amounts. We have eat foods high in fat, salt, and sugar less often and in small amounts. And then drink 6 to 8 cups of water. So that is the EatWell guide. That's the UK's version of like a food pyramid, where it's not necessarily specific, eat this much and this much, but it does give a very rough outline to what quote unquote healthy eating looks like. So now back to the article now that we figured that out. After adjusting for smoking, alcohol, and physical activity, researchers found that men and women aged 40 who made sustained change from eating unhealthy to following that EatWell guide recommendations gained roughly 9 years of life expectancy. That's pretty cool, but I don't understand how adjusting for physical activity, alcohol, and smoking can come into play. How are you able to take away those factors when they play such a really big role overall into lifestyle, right? So if you're eating really well, my theory, and I think this is safe to say, is that if you're eating really well, you're also more likely to move your body more and make healthier choices outside of the kitchen. You're probably less likely to be a smoker. You are probably more likely to exercise more. You're probably more likely to get better quality sleep. So it's very, very hard when you're doing these kind of meta-analysis to figure out, are these people adding an extra 10 years of their life because of their nutrition? Or is it because of a little bit of their nutrition, a little bit more of their fitness, a little bit more of just a healthier lifestyle in general? And that's where it just kind of always makes you go like, which is why I think it's so important for us to stop saying it's this and start creating the overall what a quote unquote healthy lifestyle looks like. Those who ditch sugary drinks and processed meats in favor of a diet rich in whole grains, nuts, fruits, vegetables, and moderate amounts of fish, so-called longevity diet, added an extra 10 years to their life expectancy. They don't talk about anything in that part about meat outside of fish, so I'm very curious if it's supposed to be like a pescatarian diet. But it also said moderate amount of fish, which I guess is that like 120 grams per day, which is not a lot, by the way. So yeah, it kind of makes me raise my eyebrows, because we do know, and I think everybody would agree, how important it is to make sure that you're getting the amount of protein that you need for your metabolic health, to keep you satiated from one meal to the next, to be able to maintain your muscle mass, to build muscle mass as you get older. So it's very interesting that really this diet, so in favor of a diet rich in whole grains, nuts, fruits, vegetables, and moderate amount of fish, just with that blanket statement, is a very low protein diet. Smaller life expectancy gains were seen among people who ate an average diet to begin with, and those who improved their eating habits later in life. Again, what we do in our younger day or younger life matters as we get older. Again, no surprise, but I do feel like a lot of times people are always like, well, I have time to change. I have time to change. I'll never forget, my mom she's had several sun cancers taken off of her body, basal cell mostly, but she has had like not melanoma, but some that are a little bit worse than just your basic basal cell. And yet she'll still lay out in the sun. And one of her thought processes behind it is, the sun cancers that I have now are from when I was in my 20s and 30s. The sun cancers that I'm developing now, I'll never have to deal with, because I'll be dead by that time. And that's crazy to me, but it is also very true that we can't outrun our past. And so the things that we did when we were younger, even if we are completely changing our life around now, they could have long-term carryover, right, with our health. And so even if you are becoming the healthiest person at 50 years old or 40 years old, yes, of course, you're going to improve your lifestyle. You are going to do amazing things for you. But there might also be some carryover from your first 40 years that'll go on to increasing your risk of heart disease or cancer or something like that. So it is something to take into consideration. So it's not surprising to me that life expectancy are lower when dietary changes are initiated in your older years. All that to say is, if you know that your nutrition needs some help, go ahead and start now. Don't put it off until Monday, which then turns into the next Monday. And then all of a sudden, 5 years ago, or 5 years later, you are still stuck where you are right now. Start making those small tweaks. See, people age 70 years old could still extend their life expectancy by around 4 to 5 years if they made sustained changes to eating healthier, either in accordance with the EatWell guide or the longevity diet. So that's awesome. And I'm just going to assume that even each decade below that, you're going to continue to add years to your life. So if you are 40 years old, start making healthier choices now so you can get closer to that 10-year addition of extra 10 years with the people in your life. It's exciting but not surprising, and that's exactly what I said. To see the enormous health benefits of making dietary changes, population nutrition research and author Catherine Livingston told Science Alert. This work is important as it demonstrates that it's never too late to make small and sustained changes towards a healthier diet. Amen. Exactly what I just said. Other studies before this have shown how various healthy eating patterns mirroring dietary guidelines are linked to lower risk of early death among U.S. citizens. While this new analysis looks at the UK, expanding the geographical range of the studies, some caveats apply with any population level data. Basically just saying, this is going to work anywhere. If you are not so great with your nutrition right now, if you start making healthier choices, then you are going to improve your life. You are going to look better, you are going to feel better, and you are going to live longer. Research also acknowledges that while their analysis looked at sustained dietary changes, maintaining lifestyle changes over time with dietary improvements can be challenging, for many dietary patterns fluctuate over time. And yes, that's where I want to point out real fast that, remember the title of this, it said, by simply changing your diet. That is a lot easier said than done, right? When you are so used to living a certain way, buying the same groceries week after week, eating the same lunches, eating out the same amount of times per week, it is really hard to say, okay, I'm going to give up eating that and instead I'm going to eat this, because food is ingrained into us not just on how we fuel our body. For some people, food is fuel. My husband is one of those people. But for a lot of people, food is culture, food is family, and the habits that we create around those things are very hard to break. So I don't think that it is a simple fix. I think that it starts very young, which is why I think nutritional changes really need to start in school. I think that it needs to be talked about, and it's very hard because at least here in America, we do talk about nutrition in health classes and stuff, but then we go to the cafeteria and the foods that we're offered in the school lunches do not mirror the nutritional choices that are being educated to us or what we're being taught. And so we got to try to figure out how to make those two things match up, which I have some thoughts on that, but that's not the purpose of this podcast. I just want to talk about this article, and then I personally want to talk about what are the outlines of what I think a healthy diet should actually include. Now, here's the one thing that I do want to say. Do we want to try to live the longest time possible? Most of us, yeah, right? I want to be around to be with my family as long as I possibly can, as long as I feel good. But at the same time, I want to stress that I don't think that I want to stress that you shouldn't be stressing about your nutrition every single day and every single meal is healthy either. And I would much rather only live an extra 7 years of my expected life and still be able to eat the birthday cakes and the cookies and enjoy the not so healthy meals from time to time, because that to me is living life, as opposed to going to be with friends and family and being like, I'm sorry, I can't eat that, I can't enjoy that. That's going to take away some of that 10 years where I think that's what healthy balance is not being perfect all the time and being okay with the imperfect and realizing that food is not just fuel. Unless you're one of those people that is the way it is. That's just not me personally. I'm actually making a cake for my parents' birthday this weekend, and I am so excited. It is going to be a 4-layer dark chocolate cake with a dark chocolate ganache in the middle, covered in coconut cream icing, buttercream, and I'm going to eat a big old slice of it. And if that takes away a day out of my 10-year extra life expectancy, I'm okay with that. I have become okay with that. So just one other little topic or thought bubble to put out there. Now, finally, the last thing that I want to talk about is, and they do say improving food environments in school and workplaces by removing vending machines and offer healthy options can make a real difference in people's life. Yes, for sure. See, and then it said a 2017 study estimated that policies to tax unhealthy items such as sugary drinks while subsidizing healthy options could save 60,000 lives in the US every year, which again, I love that. I shouldn't say again, but I love that idea. Make it harder to get the unhealthy stuff while making the healthy stuff cheaper. There are ways to get, you don't have to buy organic. I don't buy organic. Food prices are through the roof right now, but I do focus on getting the fresh fruits, the fresh vegetables. I go to the grocery store first thing in the morning, and that means for me at my grocery store, the meat that wasn't sold the day before, it gets slashed like big time. Sometimes I can get some really nice cuts of steak for like $10 off. And it's not that it's still bad, it's just it didn't get sold yesterday. So that's another option to make sure that you're trying to get as healthiest, like the proteins that you need at a lower cost price. There are ways of doing it. Let me go to my notes where I talked about the EatWell diet that the UK has. I want to talk about if I were to plan together, if it was my job to say, what is a healthy diet? What does that look like? Here are the bullet points that I put together. Now, remember, I am not a registered dietitian. I am not a doctor. I am a personal trainer. I am a nutrition coach. So take that for what it is. But these are the guidelines that I try to implement into my own life that makes me feel the best that I can every single day while living a balanced life of enjoying food, but also making sure that my body is running the best as it can, while also trying to focus on longevity. So number one, protein. I talk about this week after week. I don't want to get too much into it. All I will say is my personal goal is to get 1 to 1.1 grams of protein per pound that I weigh per day. For my clients, depending on where they're starting and what their weight is, I would start them anywhere from 0.8 to 1 gram. I go on the little bit heavier side of or higher side of that protein for my body personally, but making protein a priority is very, very important. 2, 25 to 30 grams of fiber per day from a variety of fruits, vegetables, and grains. I try anytime I see a new vegetable in the grocery store, I will grab it. My husband and I also do take a green supplement because even though we have a plethora of fruits and vegetables, it's really just all the same stuff. So in order to get like the biggest rainbow possible, then we just feel like for us personally, a green supplement is helpful, and it also has a really good source of fiber in there as well. Number 3, a low intake of processed foods. That's pretty self-explanatory, right? A low intake of added sugar. I was curious to see what the recommendations actually are for how much added sugar is quote unquote healthy per day. We really in our house don't have too much foods that include added sugar. We do use honey. We do use syrup for sweeteners from time to time. And yeah, like I said, I do enjoy cakes and cookies. It's just not something that we keep in our house all the time. But it really depends on what organization you look at that will tell you how much is healthy. The American Heart Association says that added sugar should make up no more than 6% of your daily calories, which is around 6 teaspoons of sugar or around 100 calories. Which, if you look at even the back of a yogurt cup that's, has fruit in it, or like a flavored yogurt cup, you would be amazed how much, like you're already going to hit that recommendation. The World Health Organization recommends sugar make up 10% or less of your daily calories, which is around 50 grams and 12 teaspoons. But for more health benefits, they recommend less than 5% or around 6 teaspoons. So 50 grams is 10%, so 25 grams would be about 5%. And yeah, I think like Chobani Yogurts has 18 grams of added sugar. So it's very, very hard to try to stay under this number, and you really do have to put in the effort of like, all right, let's flip the food over before we just throw it into the cart if this is something that you want to prioritize. And then the National Health Service, which is the NHS, recommends it's hot in here, that's why I keep pushing my sleeves up. The NHS recommends adults consume no more than 30 grams of free or added sugar per day. And that's definitely, 30 grams, so kind of somewhere in the middle. So yeah, My fourth recommendation is to keep that intake low of added sugar as best you can, but from time to time, enjoying it and not being afraid of it either when you're about celebrating life sometimes. Low alcohol, I don't think it's any surprise. Again, I've talked about this. No way to sugarcoat it. Alcohol is poison to the body. Does that mean that I completely avoid alcohol altogether? No, I have a glass or two of wine on the weekends, and I do not drink during the week, and that's it. I just enjoy having a glass or two of wine, but there's no way around it that even a glass or two is not good for us. So trying to minimize that alcohol intake as much as possible is obviously a very smart decision. Next, low processed or hydrogenated fats. Again, don't think that that's a surprise to anybody. I also think that having a food routine is very important for creating healthy lifestyle habits versus binge eating one day, starving yourself the next day, eating normal for a couple of days, binge eating again, starving yourself again for a day. Having an actual routine is how people thrive, and not just with the time that they wake up in the morning and the time that they go to bed. I think that just routine in general is really important. I am a person of habit. I am a person of routine. It is one of the best qualities about myself, but also a downfall because I am such a stickler to like, this is the time I do this. And it's the same thing with my food. I make my protein shake in the morning at pretty much the same exact time between 7:15 and 7:30. I eat lunch at 11:30 every day, and then we eat our dinner at roughly 7 to 7:30 every single night. I am just a person of habit, and I think that habit is what the body appreciates the most. And then finally, having a healthy relationship with food in general. And this is what I've already talked about. I think a healthy diet is also being okay with not being perfect all the time. To be healthy with the choices that we talked about up above for most of the time, but then also remembering that food is family, food is memories, food is something that brings us together. So be okay with that flexibility as well, and don't overdo your obsession when it comes to trying to give yourself that healthy title of food. So there we go. That was a lot to unpack, but I would love to hear your thoughts on this. What do you think make up a healthy diet? Did I leave anything out? And what should we talk about next time? If you have any questions, let me know. Now, the last thing that I'll say, I did not mention on that list anywhere about supplements. I don't think that supplements necessarily are required. I think that they are helpful if you are low in something, that supplements are important. I think that getting those core components of a healthy diet should be your first priority, and that once those things are done, then you can look into any sort of supplement that might help you just kind of hit those things even better. So maybe you need a protein shake to help you hit your protein goals. I do think that things like magnesium are important, which I have been loving my RNA magnesium, and I do the vitamin mix as well, mineral mix. I'll put the link down below. So I do a magnesium, I do a multivitamin, because sometimes I don't know if I'm getting everything I need from my whole nutrition. So I want to make sure that I'm covering those basics with a multivitamin. But I'm not focusing on the supplements first and nutrition second. I'm focusing on getting my whole food nutrition first and then filling the gaps in with my supplements. So hopefully that helps. But if you guys have questions, feel free to ask, and I would love to talk to you guys more. All right, and then finally, I promise, last thing, if you are working on your nutrition right now, but your workouts are just not working out, right? Because we do want them to pair together. We want to fuel your body and move your body. If your workouts are boring, you are in a workout rut, you're not seeing the results that you want, or you're not able to stay in a consistent routine, then I would love to challenge you with Fit Women's Weekly Live, which is my online training studio. Every day I record full workouts so that I become not just your trainer leading you through the workouts, but I become your workout partner to push you through your workouts and actually make your workouts more fun and exciting and get you to a level where your body is not going to be able to help but get results. So you can try it out for free. Go to fitwomensweekly.com. I'll make sure to put the link down in the show notes. And I'd love to see you over in there. I get to know all of my clients. It's a very small group of ladies, and it's always going to remain small so that I can continue to be your personal trainer and not just the trainer in the group. So if that sounds exciting to you, I challenge you, take it on, for 2 weeks, and then let me know what you think after that. I have a feeling you're going to be like, wow, I've never worked out like that before, especially by myself, because you're not by yourself, but you are kind of by yourself. You got to experience it to know exactly what I'm talking about. All right, you guys, thanks for hanging out with me. Mwah!